Gotta do it. You know we gotta do it. You don't come home, throw on your new threads, take on a in-division rival, sweep them, and expect us not to crank up the jukebox. Zach, are you ready for another party? I don't care if people are listening to this on a Monday at their cubicle, on their drive to work at 7 a.m. Doesn't matter. Let this rip through your veins. You feel that. A victory Monday times 3 after taking care of the Twins.
So now it's okay to play music on the episode on this podcast? Only when you say it's okay?
I'm glad we're finally on the same page.
I tried to have fun on our Patreon show late last week. You wouldn't let me play the music.
You're going back in time to a time before we had this sweep. A time before you knocked out the Twins on Friday night, on Saturday night. On Sunday, you broke their hearts. You broke their spirit. And you had some mental miscues of your own. We'll talk about all of that. Don't worry. It's the Selby is Godcast Have Some Fun edition.
Twins still carrying around that sausage?
I think after that series, they got to take a bite of it. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that, by the way. We're absolutely not recommending that. This had to be the vibe after the game in the clubhouse, right? This had to be just jams upon jams. Tanner Bybee. Dude looked amazing.
They're 30-17. Can you convince me that this is different from the 2011 Manny Acta 30-15 start?
Can I? Does it matter today? Isn't the theme of this season enjoy the good times while you got them? There's been a lot of good times so far this year. Give me a hit again.
I said it the other day.
You want to rain on the parade somehow?
I want the music to keep going. I don't know why you stopped it.
Okay, then. Let's get it going.
I said late last week, I'm done trying to figure out how they keep doing it. It doesn't matter. Just let them keep doing it. We can figure out in September how their style of play translates to postseason baseball. It's the middle of May. They keep winning. They're beating good teams, too, by the way. Check that record against winning teams. Although...
Not if you're a Twins fan. Don't do it if you're not a
If they keep pummeling the Twins, then the Twins aren't going to be a winning team, and it's actually going to hurt that record. The Twins are 10-20.
Good point.
10-20 against teams above 500. The Guardians are 13-7.
Where do I sign up for the Phillies plan? I want that plan where you play 3 games above teams above 500,
and they're 1-2.
Not to take anything away. What do you want them to do? Right? That's the motto. What do you want them to do? They're taking care of their business. Cleveland comes home and does it against a Twins team that they were really one to eat into that lead. They had that nice stretch where how many did they win in a row?
12.
I can tell you they've lost in a row. 6. They've taken that half away just in this recent stretch.
I mean, there's nothing to analyze. Just play the music for the next 55 minutes. Truly, they just keep winning. The end. We don't need to figure out how.
Not always. And hey, 9th inning. Let's get serious for a second. I do want to get serious for a second. That 9th inning. Tell me if you didn't have flashbacks to last year, because we said 2 things quite frequently about last year. 2023 was filled of a series where they played like crap until the end. And that took a little bit of the edge off of some of our shows. They would always finish up the series with a positive note. But they'd also do this thing that it might even have frustrated me more, where they would have a tremendous start to the series. They would be in a position to sweep. And then that last game would slip away. I'm thinking of that Kansas City game where Jose stole home, where it's still a positive series. You emerge with a series win. If Cleveland had let this one slip away, they still took 2 or 3 from Minnesota, who they're going to view that as a failure, even if they got the finale, right? But this team didn't follow that same game plan. If this is last year, they lose this game. And they probably should have lost the game, given that they had 3 chances, 3, Zach, to end the game in the 9th inning before that tying run scored, and they blew that. But they still came back in a way that didn't look like the 23 bunch, looked more like the end of the season in the 22 bunch, which I think we all like that path far more.
I think they're playing like a team that has experience, even though they're young. They know what it's like to win these games because they did it 2 years ago. They know what it's like to be in pressure-packed situations. And they also know what it's like now to fail. And to lose games in those situations and to make the wrong decision at the wrong time. And it doesn't mean they're perfect. They're 30-17. They're not 40-7. And it doesn't mean that there aren't going to be more growing pains along the way because someone like Brian Rocchio is still very new to this. And he's not the only one. And I just think that they are, I think that, don't they look like a confident bunch on the field, in the dugout? And it's easy to say when you're 30-17 that you're confident, and that confidence is, you're parlaying that into winning baseball. But that confidence is a result from knowing what went wrong last season and how not to do that again. And that doesn't mean that it's always going to work. But, I mean, you're seeing growth. Not as much maybe in certain areas as you'd like to hope. Outfield, for instance. Shortstop, for instance. But I do think you're seeing just guys believe in themselves and understanding why 22 went the way it did and why 23 went the way it did. And I think, maybe we have gripes with the lineup sometimes. Kyle Manzardo should probably play more. But I think the coaching staff has done a really good job too. Instilling that belief. Coming in and saying, look, I don't know you guys personally, but I watched what you did 2 years ago. I watched what you did last year. And I believe that you can be that group that did what you did in 2022. So, this stuff all sounds great now. We weren't saying this stuff when they lost 3-4 in Chicago, but it's been a start that's mostly been positive, even though there hasn't been...
Chicago?
What's not sustainable here? The bullpen, maybe?
That.
But we've been saying that.
3-4?
Like, again, you should get Kwan back.
This is all I remember. I don't remember 3-4 against Chicago. No, that's a distant memory. I don't remember if you just scroll down on YouTube one video below us and us panicking over. I don't remember any of that stuff. This is what I remember. This is 30-17 is what I remember. Okay, I'm sorry.
Look, you get Kwan back. You get Williams back. Like and again, you still should get better production offensively out of certain spots. So I do think that there are bright spots ahead too. I think that's why I'm done trying to figure it out. Doesn't matter. Like, I'm not talking about concerns with the rotation anymore because it doesn't matter whether it's Bybee or Allen who look lately more like they did last year, or Carrasco looking more like he did in 2018, or Ben Lively looking more like he's never looked before. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Tristan McKenzie looks like the guy from 2 years ago again. Just we don't. It doesn't matter that we're surprised that this is happening and we can't figure it out. Who cares? They keep winning. Play the music.
What I really love. Sorry, I won't take that away from you. If you demand it, I'll play it. What I really love is that throughout the course of this season, we've seen a little bit of growth, and we've seen guys go through some struggles, have the good, have the bad, but bounce back from the bad is something that is really encouraging for a younger player. We say that all the time. When you have the struggles that every young player does, how do you respond from that? We're seeing that some in the rotation. We see that with Bybee. He's had some scuffles here this year. And he has responded every time that he has had one of those stinker outings, or a couple of them. He's found a way to come back and pitch like the dude, the ace of this staff right now. Or I look at a guy like Tyler Freeman, who seems to be a hot button, and rightfully so, because he's a key member of trying to figure out who's in and who's out. Who are my dudes? Who are not a dude? And Tyler Freeman, we've given him lots of credit for the fact picking up center field, and you could look a little bit at some metrics and say, look, it could be better out there. He hasn't really crippled you or cost you games out there, and he's made some good plays. So we give him all the credit in the world for picking up a position that he's never played before, and at least he looks passable. He doesn't really look like a non-center fielder. He might not look like a great center fielder defensively, but he looks like a center fielder to me. What I'm more impressed by, we gave him credit earlier in the year when he was hitting the ball harder and he looked like he was sort of in a transition. I thought you made a good point, whether it was last week or a week and a half ago, with Freeman. He looked like he was caught in between two different sorts of hitters. He was the guy that he was in the past. He's the guy that he wants to be now with a little bit more power. And the end result was he was neither of that. He was not having any success. And then in his last 6 games, he's come back. And instead of looking like the guy that he was for several games, no confidence, no plan maybe, last 6 games he's hitting .429. And at the top of the lineup, when I don't have Stephen Kwan, my God, is that important? Even if it's, I don't know if it's a sustainable thing or if he's still working through the process. I don't know. But in this stretch right now, I don't have Stephen Kwan. It's going to be several weeks, two more weeks before we see him back in the lineup. I'll take this stretch now because nobody else was getting it done at the top of the lineup. 6 games, I'll take the 6 games because that's 6 games that it didn't look like you were missing a heck of a lot at the top of the lineup.
Let's circle back to 2011 for a second.
Okay.
Because I think Freeman and Brennan, we agree, and we touched on this a week ago, there was a path, there were hints to them figuring it out, right? Brennan more so than Freeman, but Freeman has kind of answered the bell over the last week since we said that. So I'm certainly more encouraged now than I was a week ago. Those were the 2 guys who we were like, I want to see more of them. Florial kind of confused. Laureano, I'm ready when they are. If we circle back to 2011, let me read you the lineup from the night that they moved to 30-15 with a win at home against Boston.
Was this the Orlando Cabrera catches him at second? That's what ends the game. The fist pump and everyone's just losing their minds.
Yes.
It sticks in my head.
How do you remember that?
I think I was
against Terry Francona's Red Sox.
Oh, I remember why I remember that. You remember they used to do the social suite at the games?
Yeah.
And they would bring in people and you would have to tweet from there. I took a turn in there and I was at that game. That's why I remember it.
Did we meet there?
No. We knew each other before that.
2011? That was my first year.
Yeah. No, I think we had met.
Oh, maybe it was 2010
anyway.
When I was in the social suite.
Okay.
All right. Important things here.
Very important.
Here's the lineup. Michael Brantley leading off in center. And he was off to a great start. As Drupal Cabrera hitting second at shortstop, he was off to a fantastic start. Shin-Soo Choo hitting third. Slow start for him. And this is where it goes from there. Travis Buck hitting fourth at DH. Matt Laporta fifth. Orlando Cabrera sixth.
Hold on. You're gonna need to say that again because I just need to. Who was hitting cleanup in this game?
Travis Buck.
Travis Buck.
But you understand why he was hitting cleanup, right? With his 605 OPS.
No, I don't. Okay, go on. Sorry.
Matt Laporta fifth. His season was so rough he handed media members bottles of wine at the end of it. Orlando Cabrera sixth. Jack Hanahan seventh. Austin Kearns eighth. Lou Marson ninth. Do you understand why It was no surprise that team did not maintain a 667 winning percentage.
Well, I think a certain friend of yours on Twitter would argue that same point about this lineup. I'm talking about the man that you changed your Twitter name to mock this person on Twitter, to draw the ire of Twins fans everywhere. I think they would argue that looking at this lineup, when I see a David Fry hit a crippling home run against my team,
give me David Fry over Travis Buck any day of the week.
Yeah, okay. I would. Yes, I absolutely would.
That lineup also didn't have, Kwan, Jimenez, Ramirez, and Naylor. Like, if we did a draft here, Brantley wasn't Brantley yet. Cabrera was good. Chu was good. That's it. Santana was on the bench that day. Same with Adam Everett. Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
The point is, this team is better than that team. I'm pretty confident. That team ended up, 80 and 82?
Yeah. Okay, fair point. This lineup here features one of the best players in franchise history in David Fry, and also has Jose Ramirez. But in all seriousness, Jose Ramirez, perennial MVP candidate. None of the guys that you mentioned were to that level. The top three were to that level. There's a good top of the lineup, even if Michael Brantley isn't the same Michael Brantley. But you also have a Naylor that's emerged as one of the best offensive first basemen in the game. Andres Jimenez is one of the most valuable second basemen in the game. Gets it done defensively, and we saw today, can certainly assault a pitcher in the first inning and put you up early. And has swung, just like Freeman, has come back and swung the bat a little bit better here in this recent stretch. So that's pleasing. When you have Stephen Kwan, he is one of the best contact average bats in the American League. And you're going to get him back within the next couple of weeks. That foundation, if you're telling me if I could have the top four of that lineup back in 2011 or this lineup here, yes, I'm going to take the lineup that you have here.
Yeah, so I don't know where this goes. I still have no idea whether this team's going to win 83 games, 94 games. I don't know. But I know that it doesn't matter what I think because I didn't expect this and I haven't quite understood how it's gotten to this point.
I need the 2011 rotation. I think you need to go look that up too for me. Did they ever have a stretch like they had in these 3 games? I'd imagine they did have a stretch where they had a good series, but I want to give them their flowers.
Because aside from Justin Masterson, who had a breakout season, Tomlin was your next best starter with his 4.25 ERA and his 4 strikeouts per 9 innings. And then it was Carrasco, I guess, maybe. The artist formerly known as Fausto Carmona had a 5.25 ERA. Gave up 205 hits. Remember, they traded for Ubaldo, and then Ubaldo was really rough in the second half. Yeah. Mitch Talbot made 12 starts for that team. Genmar Gomez made 10 starts. David Huff made 10 starts.
That's show opener of the Selby is Godcast, David Huff, that you're speaking of. So speak kindly of him.
I will say, though, that was the bullpen mafia. Chris Perez, 3.32 ERA, 36 saves. Joe Smith, 2.01 ERA. Rafi Perez, 3 ERA. Tony Sipp, 3.03. Vinny Pistano, 2.32. Maybe there are some parallels here.
You taking that group or you taking this group right here?
Wow. Should we bring the bullpen mafia back? Cade Smith looks like Oppenheimer. He could be in a mafia.
We've given plenty of love to the relievers. Let's focus on the
Hunter
rotation
Gaddis
because we called them into.
Hunter Gaddis be like the bouncer for the mafia? I don't know much about the mafia.
Probably. Sure. Well, just because my last name, you think I know these things? Okay.
Yeah.
No, we have given lots of credit to the bullpen. There's a big reason why they are 30-17. One of them is the bullpen. Outside of that, the rotation, you're talking about a group that doesn't have Shane Bieber, that doesn't have Gavin Williams right now. And at times, the other youngsters in this rotation, Logan Allen, Bybee, as we mentioned earlier, haven't always looked great. They did in this series. How about the fact that your three starters, Bybee, Allen, McKenzie, 19 and 2/3 innings, 2 runs allowed, 20 strikeouts. Maybe I know you didn't have any big concerns about Bybee, but I mean, he goes out and does that. I expect those sorts of efforts a lot from him. Logan Allen, that's really important. That you pitches 6 innings, no earned runs, 7 strikeouts. That's great. You need that at the back end of this rotation. I need healthy innings for me. Maybe the most important thing is Tristan McKenzie. He's not looking like the super dominant Tristan yet, but there are signs there. And 6 and 2/3, 1 run, 5 strikeouts. That on most nights, who's going to argue about that? Who's going to be upset with that? Certainly not us. And for a rotation that had all these questions, and weeks ago we're talking how are they going to get by with what they have, and Carrasco, and counting on guys that you should not be counting on at this point. In the month of May, this rotation has a 3.37 ERA. With this bullpen, that's pretty good. Mm-hmm. It's not among the best, but it's just outside that top third. That's not bad at all. And for you to be able to survive without your 2 best starters and the rest of them working through things, to be at 3.37 right now, that's a pretty big blessing. So credit where it is deserved here. They found a way to survive and pitch well enough to give you chances to win here over the last several weeks, for the most part.
It's interesting. Remember when they were off to a crazy good start? Dude, they were like 17 and 6, and then they had that the Atlanta-Houston series, and they were like 20 and 10 or 21 and 10 or something. And then remember, early on in the season, we're saying like, man, their run differential is like plus 44. This is so impressive. That shows that this team there's something here. And they have, certainly the offense has cooled off, right? They've gradually dropped down the rankings in runs per game. And I think it's really interesting. Their run differential is plus 59. Now, let's also note 2011 team finished 80 and 82, but the run differential minus 56. So that might have been a little fluky there at the beginning. That team's run differential through the end of May, by the way, was plus 38, but that also included a 19-1 win in Kansas City. So again, like, there are some signs there. The key here, how that run differential has increased even as the offense has quieted down, is 100% the starting pitching. The bullpen's doing what it's been doing. There's no change there. You are getting exactly what you needed out of Bybee and McKenzie, and the last couple times out, Allen. And if Carrasco and Lively give you quality starts, that is a huge bonus. And they've done that. Carrasco, the last 3 have been really good. It's hard to really nitpick anything Lively's done, because I didn't expect this. He's been a savior when you needed a savior. With McKenzie, to me, he never gives up a lot of hits. Like, the guy never gives up singles and doubles. It's just home runs and walks that get him. Right? The pure stuff is really good, even if the fastball velo is not 95. And I think the walk rates increased the last handful of times out. And you're seeing, the ERA is down to 3.23 and 34 hits in 47 innings. That's what he does, right? So he's had better command, only 6 home runs allowed. Like, everything is trending in the right direction for him, even if it's not as dominant. Sometimes that's okay. For a guy who's there are injury concerns with, go ahead, have an efficient pitch count, get guys to
ding, ding.
make weak contact early in counts. That's fantastic. So he looks how you want him to look. And 4 or 5 starts into the season, I was wondering if that was going to take until the All-Star break.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about that a lot, that he needs the reps, but at the same time, you can't continue to kill a bullpen, or he can't go deep into games. And so it's walking this tightrope of wanting him to get back to being old Tristan, and he needs to pitch a lot to do that. But you also can't do it to the detriment of not only trying to win games, but also just making sure your pitching staff isn't on fumes by the time you get to June. And so he's quieted that down. I think a lot of what you said I agree with, and I find fascinating him in particular, how we're maybe seeing him evolve through, instead of being the guy that thinks I've got to be one of the best pitchers in baseball, or at least the American League, I have to empty the tank early, I have to throw with high velocity. To me, it looks like a guy that's saying, I need to figure out how I can succeed without living as close to my max velo at all times, because maybe that's problematic for me. And I mentioned this in our Discord. By the way, come join the conversation. How do they do that, Zach?
Patreon.com/SelbyIsGodcast. Join.
It's a great place to be. It's been fun. It's been fun over the last 3 games. And I anticipate it will continue to be fun. I mentioned it in there that to me it looks like a guy that's trying to figure out how do I start the game with enough juice and energy to not get kicked in the face right off the rip. How do I make sure that my pitches are still quality, but I also don't want to be emptying the tank and putting myself in a position where I can't pitch deep into games or pitch deep into the season. And I'm encouraged, not by the velocity in itself, because the velocity still continues to be pretty meh, but don't you see him when he needs the velo? He still looks like he can go get 93 if he needs to, or if the moment calls for it, or if he gets a little bit added juice from the adrenaline of the moment. We see that in there occasionally. So I'm not saying I have this answer, or I think, he's discovered. To me, that's what it looks like from the outside, a guy that's figuring out, how do I not throw all the time as hard as I can, but still throw the pitches with conviction and trust that my stuff is going to be good enough, that I don't have to live right here on the corners of the plate like Josh Tomlin did many years ago, that I can be in the zone and my stuff, despite the fact that it's not carrying me through there with a 94-mile-per-hour velo, that it's good enough to set up some of the other stuff that remains lethal. Getting into the secondary pitches, those can still make hitters look foolish.
He's not going to be someone who's trying to get swing and miss with the fastball. I mean, that just hasn't happened this season. He's had 1 start where it was a swing and miss pitch. That was in April. And it also got hit around a bunch in that start. So I think we've talked about this where he's trying to use the fastball to set everything else up. And sometimes you get guys looking so much for the curveball that you can throw the fastball in there, and maybe you're not getting that swing and miss because they're just watching it sail past for an unexpected third strike. I think that's it. Yeah, you just have to think of pitch usage differently. And the velocity's been better in May than it was in April. It's not where it was in past years. But you're right. Like, he even said it. He said there have been times, even when he was struggling in April, he would say, yeah, like, I know it's averaging 90.5, but I did see a few 92s, 93s tonight, so it's in there. So, you can do that. And you just have to leverage that when it makes sense to, I guess. Who would you...
Maybe sort of reminiscent...
Let's do this then. Play the music, play the sounder. If the playoffs started tomorrow, who are your 3 starting pitchers?
If the playoffs started tomorrow. I don't have a produced spot for that, I'm sorry. Who would be my top... How many do I have to come up with? Just 3, or do I need 4?
Dude, we've done this game for like series? 2 years. Stop acting like you don't know.
I want to make sure I
Give me
have
3.
the rules down. Okay, I'll give you the 3. We're going to roll with Bybee in Game 1. He looks like the ace. Will Brennan told him to his face he's the ace. And Bybee looked a little taken aback by that. like, okay, I'll take that. A little emotional, perhaps, just hearing that from a teammate. I think you still have to go McKenzie 2. And, oof. Do I give Lively the ball in Game 3? I mean, isn't it a legitimate conversation between Lively, Carrasco, and Allen? Maybe you're looking at the lineup that you're facing. If they have a lot of lefties, maybe you would want Allen in there. But I think it would be determined a lot by matchup and thinking who could succeed most against that team.
What about a bullpen game? Bullpen mafia.
Yeah, that's what baseball needs more of. More bullpen games. I think I would go Lively. I think I'd go Lively right now.
Wow.
Do you disagree? Give me your 3.
Can you imagine saying that? When he signed his contract and we were like, I don't know, do we have to talk about this?
Not only that, imagine saying that in tandem with a 30-17 start.
Doesn't have to make sense.
How do you marry those ideas? You don't. You certainly don't. But to their credit, the starters are getting it done here in the month of May for the most part. Speaking of the starters, I wanted to ask you what you thought of in the 7th inning with the Twins threatening. Still a 1-run game at this point. Bybee's near the end. We used to hear from Terry Francona throughout his entire career here in Cleveland. He would never go to the mound without having already made the pitching change. And he would say that because he didn't want to get out there and have anybody change his mind. So it's already done. You can't do anything about it. There's no talking your way out of it. I've already pointed out there. That guy's coming out. I'm sorry. And we had a good thought process behind it. So that's why I'm not changing my mind once I get out here. What do you think of Vogt taking the other side of this coin and going out there and talking to Bybee and then deciding to leave him in to face Carlos Santana, and then he gets the strikeout, and then he comes off the field like he's ready to throw a semi-truck on its side, that fired up about it? What did you take away from that?
There are moments that, if they work, can spark personal development. Sometimes you're responsible for them. You're in control of it. Will Brennan hitting a 3-run homer off John Duran. I mean, he knows he can do that. There's not a pitcher who can take the mound that he should say, well, I got no shot here. That is a huge moment for him. Doesn't mean, there have been random people who achieve some level of triumph against Goliath. But
like what? Can you point to one in particular? I just can't think of it.
The Will Brennan
Thanks for listening
to Godcast.
Godcast.
And that doesn't mean it's going to make your career. It doesn't mean it's going to launch you into history. But that's always there. That can't be erased. Will Brennan did that one time. His process worked in a moment where it was critical that it did against a pitcher that made it really difficult to execute. Can't take that away. Next time there is a shred of self-doubt in his head, he can say, well, but I did do this that one time, so I can probably do this too.
I love how honest Will Brennan is, by the way, because he's talking to Dre after the game, and he said, what are you doing up there? Well, I'm looking for a fastball down and in, and I just adjusted. I don't even know what happened. I just love the honesty of Brennan. He will sometimes be self-detrimental, and other times, hey, I made the adjustment, I guess, and hit it out of the ballpark. Did what I was supposed to.
And with Bybee, sometimes that development is spurred by you having the confidence that someone believes you can do it, right? So I love the decision. That's one of the... And Terry Francona did talk about sometimes putting guys in a position where if you fail in that big moment, you can learn from it. But if you succeed, like, what's stopping you now? And Bybee in that moment, I mean, that you got a vote of confidence from your manager that he believes you can get this critical out in a big situation. Vote, you like that? Little play on words there. And it worked. So it's the same thing. It's just how it happens. You know, think about, let's go back to that same era of Cleveland baseball, 2012. Well, 2011, they trade for Ubaldo Jimenez. That said, hey, we believe in you guys. Not positive it's going to be this year, but let's go get the best starting pitcher on the market. Then the next year, they got Brent Lillibridge. What did that tell everybody in the clubhouse? Don't think it's your year, guys. Right? Look at last season. Same thing. When you know other people believe you can do it, you're more likely to believe in yourself. And maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. But when it does work out, there's no reason to think otherwise.
I reflected back on the story you love to tell on this podcast about Mesa in '95.
Yeah, perfect example.
In this moment, you weigh, we're trying to win a game against one of baseball's best hitters, the guy that went on to win the MVP somehow. But he did. He went on to win the MVP, Mo Vaughn.
Allegedly.
And I think conventional wisdom would say it's probably better to go get Paul Asemacher to face this lefty than Jose Mesa if we're just looking at this battle, this
All
game.
you stat nerds, TJ, you would have done that. You would have gotten Asemacher with your analytics and your spreadsheets.
But Hargrove, to his credit, thought it was less about, I mean, you want to win the game. You're going to be disappointed if you don't, and you're going to have to answer some hard questions if you don't make that move and it blows up in your face. Same way it would have happened to Vogt today. If he leaves Bybee in and then Santana socks one to the gap and the lead is gone, you would absolutely be questioning why make that decision, and no one's talking about it joyfully today. But it's weighing winning in that game versus I'm making an investment in someone I think is a critical part of my team. And I thought the way that Vogt phrased it, I thought was interesting, and it was he was out there not because he had his mind not made up. He was looking for, I'm out here because I want to hear the words out of your mouth that you're going to take this guy down, and that I'm right to have the confidence in you. So he's going out there not because he doesn't know what to do in this situation. He's going to talk to Bybee, and that'll be the last thing. It's, I already know what to do, but I want to go through this process because I want you to know that I know that you know that you can take care of this guy.
And more on this in an upcoming article, but I will tell you, Bybee is as competitive as they come. Has been that way since
you can see it.
Birth. And you could see it last year. Like the bulldog word kept coming to me last season when he was pitching and always trying to get through 6 innings, and you see that again. Like, he is the guy that wants the ball. He's going to be frustrated when you take it from him. And it's why even in a sophomore season when I think you have to make a ton of adjustments and there are certain learning curves that you're just inevitably going to go through, I do think there's something about that drive that raises his floor a bit and just should make him effective. Even, it's someone who, when he doesn't have his best stuff, he's just going to, he's going to grit through it. Like, that doesn't mean anything, but it does. Like, I trust that he is so determined to figure out a way and battle that more often than not, he's going to make it happen. Like that, there's nothing sexy about that. There's nothing, you can't boil that down to numbers. But I think you saw that on display. Like the start in Texas, he didn't want to come out of that. And I think this was kind of like okay, well, prove it to me then. Prove to me that you are right, and I should leave you in until you're done. And he did. You love to see that out of a pitcher.
Sure. Yeah. I'm hopeful that that's not an ongoing thing. Like, I want that to be a strategic thing right then and there for a very specific reason. I don't I do prefer we already made this choice. I'm not going to go out here and be talked into it one way or another.
Wait, but
the only way that I really find any joy in it is when Max Scherzer screams no, get back in the dugout, and the manager just turns right back around.
What's the funniest situation though? Vogt comes out, Pedro Avila on the mound, and it's 11-2, and he's like, "You know what? I believe in you. Prove to me that you should stay in for one more hitter." Or Ben Lively's on pitch 136, and they're down 5-1 in the eighth.
I'm pretty sure he said that to all of us at some point. Either he believes in us all or he's giving us a load of dookie here. And that would be fitting coming from Vogt. I mean, that's what he was doing when he learned he was the manager, so. I want to throw a stat at you. Tell me whether or not this is legitimate, a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing that it has happened, that's for sure. But whether or not it's a statistic that tells a truthful story or one that maybe has some regression baked into it. This was in the Guardian's notes here today, and it's fitting given the way we've seen this offense operate this year. What has been the real big difference? They're hitting for power. Home runs are a meaningful way that they're scoring runs this year. 50th home run in game 47 for this group. Took until 77 last year. Game 47, 50th home run. 77 last year. And so what do you take away from that? Because does it feel like it's a statistic that isn't truthful about the way that this offense is? Do you think it's a meaningful statistic that you can continue to maybe see integrated into this offense? What do you think?
I think last season the only way they could score runs was slash and dash, and they weren't as good at that. And I think this year they realized we can't solely rely on that. A guy like Will Brennan needs to hit 15 home runs, not 5. A guy like Stephen Kwan needs to hit 10, not 5. A guy named anyone but Miles Straw needs to hit more than 1 home run in center field. Freeman's got 4, right? So it's just upgrading on the margins. Naylor's going to go from 17 to who knows how many, 35? Jose Ramirez is going to go from 24 to maybe 30 or so. And so I think you're just getting those incremental upgrades where guys who hit 5 now hit 10, guys who hit 7 hit 12. And it makes a huge difference. You didn't have that. Last season, Josh Bell gave you 11. Arias gave you 10. I mean, you had 6 in double figures, but only 1 with more than 17. And so many guys with... Just look at the slugging percentages. Jimenez last year, 399. Rosario, 369. Kwan, 370. Straw, 297. Brennan, 356. Bell, 383. Arias, even with those 10 home runs, 352. Oscar Gonzalez, 312. Nobody hit for power. It's so bad. And so this year, whether it's home runs or doubles, they are getting... Doesn't it just seem like there are more ways to score runs? Because they haven't run the bases all that great. They've gotten caught stealing quite a bit. So the slash and dash, it can work at times, but they're not solely relying on that. And it's not perfect. I mean, Jimenez has 3 now, home runs. Rocchio still hasn't hit one. I think we're still expecting more power from Bo Naylor. But David Fry has been big with, I know it's only 4 home runs and 5 doubles, but it's in 100 plate appearances. So there are more threats, I guess, is the way to take this from a 3-minute answer to your question to 5-second answer.
Well, I think it's meaningful because how much does 1 home run in a given game change your impact to win that game? Especially, look at last year and how many games was 1 run the difference? Just one run could have made the difference between losing and playing extra innings or more, if there's more guys on base. So just hitting one home run in a game drastically well, maybe not drastically, but does have an impact on the game that you're playing. It's going to significantly increase your chance to win to some degree. And so it is meaningful, even if this team isn't going from last place to top 5 in home runs. I mean, you think, well, that's what you need to do to really become this big juggernaut offense. And true, I mean, if they found a way to do that, absolutely. But it is the incremental changes that you're talking about are big, because over the course of the season, if you're playing a lot of close games, if you're taking a single or even looking at it as an out and turning that into an instant run or more, that one home run in that one game has increased my chance that I was going to win that game. And so it doesn't take, especially when you're way down at the bottom. I mean, when you're at the bottom and you hit any, of course you start to climb and those become meaningful. Maybe it's less significant at the top because you're already hitting so many. But I think they're at the part of the spectrum where those little incremental changes make you more legitimate. Pitchers got to fear you. They have to be more careful in how they attack you, which maybe that breeds more mistakes because you're so concentrated on, I have to execute. Kind of like what we saw with Logan Allen earlier in the year. I'm thinking, I got to be perfect. I got to be on the corner. What happens when you're not? You're behind in the count, and then hitters are sitting on something, and then out of the park, or a double, or something meaningful. So just being a little bit more legitimate. They don't have to be one of the best teams in home runs. They have other ways that they can beat you, but just to be a legitimate offensive threat in the power department and home runs, I really do think for this team it makes a massive difference.
Yeah, I mean, if they have 9 players on pace for double-digit home runs, and a few of them are on pace for like 10 or 11, 12, but that's, you would take 9 home runs, or like, for example, Freeman in center field's on pace for like 13-ish. Hell of a lot better than the one you got from Miles Straw over the last 2 years. So it's. I also think there's more to be had. Manzardo hasn't hit one yet. I think that'll change at some point in his career. I still think Jimenez can hit for more power. Bo Naylor can hit for more power. I think you're seeing Will Brennan in real time tap into some more power, kind of like how Stephen Kwan had, how Tyler Freeman has. I don't know. I mean, Gabriel Arias has looked completely lost, but I do know that when he does get a hold of one, he has power potential. So, and then
two of them over 110 today. Couple of barrels for Arias today.
And then in AAA, Rodriguez and Valera, those are power hitters. Juan Brito can hit for some power. So I think it's both a philosophical thing and personnel just realizing that this is the way they have to play, but also guys, that's in there. It's like they should have hit for more power last year. That's why they brought in Zunino and Josh Bell, and it just didn't work.
Let's play a game.
Oh.
Not the schedule game. Not the schedule game.
Oh, okay. Because as I predicted, they went 3-0.
If you hit that button, you can kiss your producer career goodbye. Okay. I do want to play a game.
I may or may not have done a Peloton ride to the NFL primetime soundtrack over the weekend.
Don't hate the songs. Just hated your idea, your execution of it. I don't know if you've heard this. A certain former Cleveland baseball player is coming to town.
Is it... Hold on, let me pull up the Mets roster to see if there's anyone else who used to play for Cleveland so I can crack a really funny joke.
Land the joke.
It wouldn't happen to be... They don't have any.
Okay, I guess it's just got to be Francisco Lindor. I don't know if you've seen this. Lindor is coming back to town.
What?
Of course, it brings back old memories, and thankfully, I don't think we have to relive the World Series in the way that Apple TV wanted us to on Friday night. My God, enough, Uncle. That was a torture chamber if I've ever seen one. But World Series and winning streaks, and Lindor's a huge part of that. I do hope he gets a good reaction from the crowd. I really don't know what it's going to be, but I hope that he does.
It'll be nice.
I mean, he deserves it. He deserves it. I mean, you're a huge chunk of the success you had when he was here is due to him. It absolutely is. So he deserves that. We'll see what happens in the rest of this series. But what I wanted to do today in our game to wrap things up, you remember we used to spend show after show after show talking about Lindor trade fits, trade candidates.
I miss that.
You want to just go back in time and pretend that he's still here, and then we'll trade him again?
Sure.
No, we don't want to do that. So I wanted to transport us back in time. I wanted to do that to some degree. So I was looking old rumors, because now we know what they got. Got Andres Jimenez out of it long term. Got some good moments and parts of good seasons from Ahmed Rosario. The rest of it still to be decided. But you got a platinum glove winning second baseman who had a tremendous year a couple of years ago. You've locked up. He's a key part of your roster. I'm certainly not upset to have Andres Jimenez part of it. So we know what the trade is. But let's go back to a time when we didn't know what it was going to be. And I found an article from MLB.com that describes 7 Francisco Lindor trade fits. Now, I could just tell them to you. You could just react. That would be a way to go about it, but that's not what we like to do here. We want to have fun with it. So let's dust off a game we had a couple of months ago. I'm going to read you the trades. I want you to put them on the spectrum of 1 to 7. But you don't know what comes next. You don't know what the next trade is. So I want you to rank them without knowing what the next trade idea is.
I like it. Hit the music.
You're gonna. I don't have music. What do you think? I assume I have music for everything? Let's start with a trade of Francisco Lindor to the Toronto Blue Jays. Are you going to write these down where you think these go?
Yes.
Okay. Where does this rank between 1 and 7? Blue Jays get Francisco Lindor. Indians at the time get Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Alejandro Kirk, and Kevin Smith.
Who? The catcher?
Not the movie guy. Third baseman, shortstop. It was the 19th prospect for the Blue Jays at the time. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Oh, and Jay and Silent Bob.
Jay and Silent Bob. Yes, there you go.
Gurriel and Kirk. Oh man, that was. So but what makes this tough is like control. So this would have been, when are we thinking? When was the date of the article?
November 15th.
Of what year?
2020.
2020. Oh. So with 1 year left of Lindor?
Yeah. I mean, this is right before the actual trade happened.
Gurriel and Kirk. So Kirk's had a rough time the last couple of years. Gurriel had, I think he had like limited team control, right? Or was it through 22? Maybe it was through 23. Okay, I'm going to put that at a... I'm not quite sure what a Kevin Smith is. I'll go 5.
All right. 5. Interesting. All right, next trade.
Kirk was looking good at the time, right? He was coming off that one really good year.
Yeah?
No. Nope. Stand corrected. He had just made his major league debut. His really good year was 22. He was okay in 21. Carry on.
All right, you gonna stick with that?
Yeah, I
5?
liked Gurriel. It was an outfielder. They need outfield help. Sure. It's 1 year of Lindor. Like, the
All right.
difference between, we were talking Dustin May plus Gavin Lux, like the Dodgers' top 2 prospects a year earlier. And then neither of them has quite panned out, so who knows if
Yes,
that would have been the right deal to make
be
anyway.
hearing,
Yeah, okay.
gonna be
Carry
hearing
on. It's your game.
some of these names coming up. Next up, Francisco Lindor to the Phillies. Phillies get Lindor and Roberto Perez. Indians get Rafael Marchand, who was the Phillies' 7th prospect at the time. Francisco Morales, the Phillies' number 4 prospect. Jalen Ortiz, I'm guessing, the number 19th prospect. And shortstop, Bryson Stott, which was the number 82 overall prospect in baseball at the time.
Interesting. So, yeah, that would have been pretty good. Wait, am I ranking these in terms of revisionist history now or at the time
Yes.
what was good?
Yeah. I want you to look through the prism of now.
Okay. I mean, Bryson Stott is legitimate. That would have been a nice ad. I don't know a ton about his defense off the top of my head. Now the Phillies have been using him at second base, but that's because they have Trey Turner. That's pretty good. The other guys, I don't think have done a ton, right? Morales, Marchand, and Ortiz.
No, nothing really to speak of.
Yeah, but Stott's good.
In
I mean,
quick-
like that's the
quick search I was
key.
doing.
It's that seems parallel to
Yeah.
the Jimenez thing, where you just want one guy who maybe he's not quite as good as the guy you traded, but you have him for a long time.
Yeah.
So that's a hit. I'm gonna go 2.
I think that's a good one. I think I might agree with that one. Next up, Francisco Lindor to the Cincinnati Reds. The Indians get shortstop Jose Garcia, who was the number 6 prospect at the time, outfielder Austin Hendrick, who was the 78th overall prospect at the time, Jonathan India, who was the 5th prospect of the Reds, number 5 overall, or the Reds prospect list, Nick Senzel, and Tyler Stevenson.
Huh.
That was baseball's 96 overall prospect. These are according to MLB.com, because that's where this article comes from. Look at all the names in that trade, huh?
It's unbelievable that Senzel has not played for this franchise yet. I mean, that's a weird one. Stevenson
Stevenson's the most intriguing name in that deal, right?
Yeah, catcher who can hit.
Look, you have India, who fell off, looked like he was destined for being a perennial all-star, and has not been that guy. Senzel, everyone believed that he was just can't-miss guy. But Stevenson.
I wish I could move Toronto out of 5. I'll put that 6.
Interesting.
Stevenson's good, but I still believe in Bo Naylor, and you shouldn't be trading Lindor for a catcher.
It's a lot of stuff.
Isn't a stud catcher. I mean, his career, Stevenson's been just about a league average bat. Career high home runs of 13. I don't think you're trading Francisco Lindor for a package that has him as the centerpiece. Obviously, he wouldn't have been the centerpiece in 2020, but with 2020 vision, I can tell you that he was.
This one, I can't wait. Lindor to the New York Yankees. The Indians get...
Ooh, let me guess.
All right, do it. Let's do it.
L'Oreal and the
He's
third
not
baseman. What was his name?
Andujar.
Miguel Andujar. Gary Sanchez?
Yeah, he is in this. So it was Clint Frazier, Miguel Andujar, Luis Gil, and Albert Abreu, the 5th and 12th prospects at the time in the Yankees system, respectively.
So Gil's had an awesome season so far. Yeah, that's it. That's bad. I may have screwed up here. What if all these trades are bad? Uh, I Gil's been really really good. It's only been 9 starts. He's never been really good before. I shouldn't say that. Like he was a good prospect. I don't know. I hate this game. I will put that like Frazier and Andujar just never became what they could have been. So if it's just for the pitcher, it's not. It shouldn't be 7. Can I move the Reds down? No. All right, Yankees 7.
No, that's the whole purpose of this game. 7. Okay. Here's the Mets trade. Here's what they have. The Mets get Lindor and Austin Hedges. The Indians get Andres Gimenez, Jeff McNeil, Pete Crow Armstrong, who was the 5th prospect at the time for the Mets, Riley Gilliam, the 25th overall prospect for the Mets.
Number 1.
Number 1. Some of these seem silly then once you learn what the trade actually was, like who the names are involved, and then you see the names involved in these potential ones. Not all of them, but like Jeff McNeil being included in this on top of Jimenez. And then Pete Crow Armstrong, like the level of prospects that they also got included, it's not to this level at the time, but also remember they included Carlos Carrasco. So there was another element of this as well at the time. What'd you give this one again? Where'd you put this?
Numero 1.
Okay. Next up, we have 2 more. Yeah, 2 more. Francisco Lindor to the St. Louis Cardinals. The Indians get Harrison Bader, Tommy Edman, Johan Oviedo, who was the 12th prospect in the system at the time, and Angel Rondon, the 13th Cardinals prospect at the time.
Seem to have gotten ourselves into a pickle here. Edman's a nice player. Cal Quantrill's college roommate. I believe he is injured, yeah. He's not played. I can't worry about that, though. I don't know. I guess I have to put that 4th. I think they liked Bader at various points. He was a guy, I mean, they liked every outfielder who ever had a pulse. So Edman's solid because he's super versatile. He's been a league average bat in his career. Francona would have loved the guy. Like, that's a nice little piece, but the rest is not very inspiring. So, again, like, I wish I could move Toronto up, I guess, and Cincinnati down, New York up. This is a mess. 4. Please be a decent trade.
And that leaves us with what? Number 2?
3.
3. Okay. Last one. This one, you couldn't have a trade discussion involving Francisco Lindor that didn't involve the Los Angeles Dodgers. Dodgers get Francisco Lindor. The Indians get Dustin May, Matt Beattie, Cody Thomas, who was the 30th overall prospect in the Dodgers system at the time.
Yeah, that's not great. I have to put it 3rd. I've always been infatuated by Dustin May's arm, but he just cannot stay healthy. He has thrown a grand total of 191 innings in 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 6 seasons. So, not great. Topped out at 56 innings in the pandemic-shortened season. Yeah, so that's 3rd. And it's interesting, too, because that's a pretty steep fall from May and Lux the year before. And who knows what was realistic from the Dodgers' perspective, but May and Lux were like their two top prospects, or two of the top 3 or 4. So I have it: Mets, Phillies, Dodgers, Cardinals, Blue Jays, Reds, Yankees. I wish I could have it Mets, Phillies.
No, you can't. No.
I don't even know.
Can't break the rules.
The
Can't break
Dodgers
the
I have
rules.
third because they were the last one, but I think that's the worst one.
The more important question, one, was this better than just revisiting the trade? Period. And second, would you take what they got over all of these other trades? Where would you rank the actual return from the Mets among this group?
Yeah, I would say the one that got them McNeil and Pete Crow Armstrong is better than Ahmed Rosario and the 2 prospects that didn't pan out. So I would take that above what they got. The Bryson Stott one is interesting. He had a really nice year last year. Obviously Jimenez is the better defender, and that's going to factor into the WAR and your overall impression of him. I'm Stott's so interesting though. And then the maybe the most interesting part of it is that Stott's older than Jimenez is. So, if you're going to say, well, Stott's 26, he's only in like his second full season? I guess he played most of 22.
The fact
third.
that you've already locked up Jimenez, does it factor into this at all?
Yeah,
you already have him at an affordable rate now, and he's not leaving it at the end of this.
I wish, for the sake of this exercise, I'd be more confident if Jimenez looked like the 2022 hitter so far this season. So Stott, first of all, incredible base stealer who almost never gets caught stealing. But also this season, he was a really good hitter last year, but didn't hit for a ton of power and didn't draw very many walks. And this year, he's drawing a ton of walks. His walk rate has spiked, and he's got more walks than strikeouts. So the on-base percentage is pushing 400, and he's probably going to hit his 15 to 20 home runs and steal 35 bases. That's a really fun player to stick at the top of a lineup. So I think it's an interesting comparison. They're just different players. Nothing else in that Phillies trade moved me, so I'd probably, you did get value from Ahmed Rosario for a couple years. That helped you in 2022, certainly. So I'd probably take what they got over this, but I'm really intrigued to see what kind of player Stott becomes. But I'm also still intrigued to see what Jimenez, who he actually is. So I think that's the conversation. The rest of these trades you can crumple up and throw them in your garbage can.
All right, I will do that.
What was your ranking?
This isn't me. This was all about you. AKA, I spent so much time in preparing it, I didn't actually think about it myself. But I was cross-referencing because I thought this was true, and it actually is. Did you know that Francisco Lindor and Ahmed Rosario have hit equal amount of postseason home runs for their new teams after that trade? That made no sense. Rosario hit a home run as the shortstop in Cleveland in the postseason. So did Lindor. He hit one for the Mets.
Will Lindor hit a home run this week in Cleveland?
I don't know.
Sweet. Great answer.
I can't think about it now?
It depends.
I just have to arrive.
Is that what you're going to say? It depends.
I just have to arrive at it?
Will it go off?
No, he's going to go he's going to go 0 for 15. Wait, how would he get that many? No, probably not that many at-bats. 0 for 12.
That's kind of how his season's been going.
He'll be so distracted. What, 81 WRC plus I think I saw going into today? He'll be so distracted by the clubhouse music after the game
that he won't be able to nap?
He'll be all out of sorts. 5.5 game lead on the Twins. That's not nothing. Think of it this way, Zach. How many games in a row did they win?
12.
And they're still 5.5 back now. They already had one. That might have been their best stretch of just wins in the season. They're 5.5 back. Again, that's not nothing. Doesn't clinch anything, and it certainly doesn't when the Kansas City Royals are just right there trying to get at you, playing almost equally as well. Only a game and a half back. That's incredible. 2 teams over 600 winning percentages in this division, and neither one of them are the Twins. What the is happening here?
Just let the music play. Speaks for itself.
Hey, go down there, click like. Do that for us. Or subscribe if you're not a subscriber. We desperately love you for it. And then come join us, patreon.com/SelbyIsGodcast, where you get 1 additional episode per week for $1 per episode. And then come join the Discord. It's a lot of fun. And then you can find us Apple Podcasts, Spotify, if you don't want to consume the video version. But we do thank you for being here. Any parting words?
Just make sure you call him Francisco this week. That's all he ever asks.